Well, hey, welcome. We are so glad that you're joining us today. And today we're tackling a question that we often get, which is how do you deal with disrespect from kids and stepkids? That's a really common question. This happens in lots of different households, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it can be a really hard thing to respond.
Yeah.
It's hard as a bio parent. You know, when you're wanting to love on kids and you know that they've been struggling and hurting. It's hard as a step parent when you're feeling hurt because maybe you're the one being disrespected.
Feeling rejected even.
That's right. Well, today our goal is to learn ways to respond that's going to safeguard relationships. That's the bio relationships, the step relationships, and the couple relationship. And also still be able to set clear boundaries.
Yeah, we've got to do both.
That's right. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your step family from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of step family life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want. Now, before we dive into some practical steps that we're going to walk you through, first we want to kind of explore what could be contributing to disrespect from kids and stepkids, because we need to understand that.
Yeah, where's it coming from?
Right, right. And one thing that could be contributing to a kid's poor attitude or disrespect is they might just be really hurting. You know, most of our kids have been through a lot of change, transitions, moving between two homes. All of this can really impact their emotional state and their moods. So sometimes they're just really struggling.
Yeah, we got to think through that, right?
Yeah, what are they experiencing that could be contributing to this? Now, another thing that could be setting the stage, so to say, for disrespect is unclear expectations in the home.
Between us?
Yes, between the parents and towards the kids, because what happens is kids get mixed messages and they get this unpredictable response and they don't really know what the expectation is that they're supposed to be following when bio parent and step parent both have different expectations. So they're not getting this clear boundaries or clear limits on how they should be behaving and how they should be treating, especially a step parent.
Yeah, it's really easy to get in that situation where disrespect happens to me as a step parent, and I'm going to respond to that much differently than you might as a bio parent. And all of a sudden, Annika gets mixed messages. And like you just said, I like the way you put that. And she doesn't really know how to respond. Like, what are the expectations?
Yeah, so we're expecting something that we haven't made clear.
Right.
So we're going to talk about how we do that later on here. And then another thing that can lead to disrespect in the home is when the bio parent is paralyzed. We've talked about this many times, how it should be the bio parent that is handling most of the disciplinary actions and setting expectations. And when that bio parent is paralyzed, or they're kind of they're stepping back in their parenting duties in a way that is allowing for poor behavior. They're not holding their kids accountable. There could be lots of factors going on here, guilt, fear, that's causing the bio parent to
back off a little.
Yeah, to back off or to allow behaviors to come up. And that can really open the door for disrespect.
Yeah, we never had to deal with that, did we?
Oh, don't even go there.
I know that's a challenging one, right?
Yeah, that's a really tough one because bio parents have a hard role.
That's right. So we've got, kids might be hurting. We've got some unclear expectations sometimes if as a couple we're not on the same page. If bio parent is feeling paralyzed for whatever reason, and there's lots of reasons that a bio parent can feel that way. And then we also, might be contributing to this when we're not leading by example.
Yeah.
So the question I have around that is like, what's the level of conflict that is happening between you as a couple?
Yeah.
When Kim and I have been through seasons where we've been challenged with conflict between us, sometimes it's really hard to speak respectfully to each other. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, you know, if I'm not speaking respectfully to Kim, it's really hard for me to hold any of the kids in the home accountable and up to a standard of being respectful.
Yeah.
I've got to live it. I've got to lead by example.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, you know, if kids are thinking, well, gosh, there's a ton of conflict there, and who knows if they're even going to make it. Well, they might be thinking, well, why do I have to be respectful to the step parent? They might not be around very long anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of how we handle conflict and respond to each other, even when things are difficult, could be setting the stage for how the kids are going to respond as well.
And it's not that we never have conflict. Everyone has conflict. It's how you resolve the conflict and how you treat each other as you're experiencing conflict. That's what your kids are watching. Mm-hmm. And especially from the perspective of a bio parent, if you're being disrespectful to the step parent, what motivation do your kids have to respect your partner if you can't even do that? It really is damaging.
So we really have to examine these things before we dive into the 6 simple steps that are going to help you respond to disrespect.
Yeah.
We're going to share those here in just a moment, but we wanted to talk about, well, what might be contributing? So thinking through those things.
Yeah, and there could be other things that we've missed, too. There could be all kinds of
different things. Now, while you're listening to this podcast, you might be driving, or you might be doing your daily workout routine, or maybe you're doing household chores. And a lot of times when people are listening to podcasts, they're just not in an area where it makes sense to take notes. If you're driving, please don't be taking notes, right? So we want you to know that we've got you covered. We've taken all the notes for you for this particular episode, and we've got them in a nifty little cheat sheet that you can download totally free. So we're including a link in the show notes, and you can go grab those really quickly and simply. Download your copy. Just head over to support.mikeandkimcoaching.com/017. That's because this is episode 17. So again, that's support.mikeandkimcoaching.com/017 so that you can get that cheat sheet that goes along with this episode, and you'll have all the notes. So you can just relax now and just listen through the episode. So with that, let's dive into those 6 simple steps. What's step 1, hon?
Well, step 1 is really getting clear as a couple, getting united on what is disrespectful and what is not. You've got to come together and decide. And we had to go through this process early on in our marriage because, you know, there can be a wide range. One parent might think, you know, rolling of eyes is horribly disrespectful. That just can't be tolerated. Well, the other parent's like, big deal. Who cares about that? You know, so we've got to get together and talk about what kind of things are we going to hold the kids accountable for? Where do we set the expectation? And what kind of things are okay? Because kids are kids, and we do have to make allowances for kids to have a bad day sometimes and to be grumpy and to throw the silent treatment out there when they're struggling.
And that's really challenging, right? Because
it is.
You know, as a bio parent, you probably are more forgiving
much more
than a step parent who's more objective and is going, wait a second, that can't happen. Like, at least that was true for us.
Why are you allowing that behavior? That was a big thing that you used to say. But we need to come together and have some conversations, and not just one conversation. This is going to be ongoing conversations because kids change, right? You're going to have different levels of disrespect and different types of behaviors going on throughout their upbringing. So we've got to come together and talk about, hey, I noticed this the other day. What do you think about that? Or, hey, I had this experience with Johnny the other day and it made me a little uneasy. What do you think? And really talk through what it is that you're standing on here as a couple.
Where's the line? And can we find agreement on where that line is?
Now, a lot of times, you know, bio parents, you come into this blended family dynamic and you really want your kids to accept and to love your new partner. And that's an unrealistic expectation, especially right out of the gate.
Yeah.
You cannot force kids to accept and love your new partner.
Right.
But what you can expect from your kids is courtesy and kindness, right? Civility, not love.
Yeah. You can want acceptance and love, but you can't expect acceptance and love. Those are two different things.
That's something that has to grow over time. But it doesn't mean that your kids can't show a level of courtesy toward your new spouse and respect. Like I said, it's about a lot of times kids disrespecting a step parent. And in fact, that's where this question usually comes from, is a step parent who's struggling with this. But it can go the other way around as well. I mean, Mike was having a really difficult time. His idea of disrespect was very different than mine when it came to just developmental behavior.
Sure.
You know, my daughter was 5 when we got together, and she would throw these big, gigantic fits whenever she didn't get her way. And I was kind of like, well, yeah, that's what 5-year-olds do, you know, deal with it.
But there were also those times where during those fits, she would either refer to you or speak to you in a tone or use words that I felt were really disrespectful.
Yes.
Right. And so I was in that mode of, well, I want to protect my wife, even though this is only a 5-6-year-old child.
Yeah.
And then I also had this thought of, well, if we don't start teaching her how to be respectful now, then we're going to have a really hard time teaching her how to be respectful later.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be in those situations where my blood was boiling, because that made me mad. And then I would respond really poorly when things were happening there. So a lot of that just had to do with us not being on the same page of what respect should and would look like in our home.
Yeah. We had to have many, many conversations in order to become united about what respect was, what was considered disrespectful, so that we could really work as a team to train and to teach Annika. Because like Mike said, ultimately, this is about helping our kids become well-adjusted adults in the future. But in the moment, we tend to feel like it's all about how they're treating us.
Yeah.
And it's really a lot bigger than that.
It is.
It really extends out. It's not just about this momentary discomfort.
Yeah. So if we want to know how to respond really well in those moments where we're experiencing disrespect, we've got to be on the same page as a couple of what respect should look like in our home. Right?
Yeah.
That's step 1.
We need to figure it out.
Yep. All right. Let's take a look at step 2. The second one sort of relates back to what we were saying about how things contribute to disrespect in our home. But step 2 is really brainstorming the root cause of that attitude or that disrespect that's happening in the moment. It's really possible that it could be due to blended family dynamics.
Sure.
There's a lot of things to get used to. Maybe a new environment. We're in a new home. We've got new step siblings that are maybe in our space even. I've got a step parent that I don't really want to connect with or like. There's lots of things that it could be.
And all the binds they deal with. They could have a loyalty bind going on.
Moving back and forth between homes, all of that. But there's also other things that are happening in a child's life, right? It could be a stage of life thing. Like if we're in preteen and teen mode, full on hormones might be flowing. And that is part of kids growing up. And mood swings are typical for teens and preteens. You know, they're physical, they're emotional. The chemical changes that are happening in their brain and in their body makes it really difficult for kids in this stage to regulate their emotions.
Yeah.
Like they haven't developed self-control or self-mastery over their negative emotions yet, like we've had the opportunity to learn as adults.
Yeah, there's tons of research around that.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of a funny story of a couple we worked with a while back, and there was a 12-year-old girl in the mix who was being very disrespectful towards stepmom, kind of shutting her down and little snarky comments and not acknowledging her.
Sure.
Like would just kind of stomp past her, treating her like she was invisible.
Yeah.
I think that would be the best way. And the stepmom was just really frustrated and annoyed as she talked. And, it's a 12-year-old girl. Oh, boy. And this stepmom didn't have any kids of her own. And one of the suggestions was, hey, go hang out with some preteen girls.
Yeah.
This is all very common.
That's right.
So a lot of times it's just very common to have kids in these stages where
It's just
they're
difficult.
struggling.
Yeah.
Developmentally with stuff.
Definitely. So that might be contributing. We're in step 2, we're brainstorming these root causes. It could be that they're struggling at school.
Something
or
else.
Maybe within their friend group. There's all kinds of things. And the point here is, as we're thinking through this, let's not get too high centered. Sometimes we say don't overdiagnose blended family issues, but we don't want to get too high centered that, oh, they don't like step parent, or, oh, they're just mad because we're in this situation. We've got to think all the way around the problem and really see if there's other things going on that's contributing to that disrespect. So we really want to expand our thinking about what that root cause might be.
Yeah, because by the way, kids in first families, they also struggle with disrespect
right, yeah.
and bad attitudes.
For sure. So that's step 2. We're brainstorming that root cause. And that's what we're doing as a couple, sitting down and going, okay, what might be really going on here? So what's step 3? We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion.
Step 3 is confirming the root cause.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to spend some time engaging with your kids and asking and trying to find out and really encouraging your kids to share what they might be experiencing or feeling without interrogation. That's
right.
the key. You don't want to hammer them with tons of questions. What's the matter with you? Why can't you snap out of it?
Yeah.
And sometimes we do this because we're really uncomfortable with their attitude, or
We just want to fix the
we're
problem.
frustrated. But we want to switch that and take it from an angle of curiosity instead. Try asking open-ended questions, such as, I wonder if you're hurting right now. Or it seems like you're feeling upset. And then just wait for them to respond. It's okay if they don't want to talk about it. It's not your responsibility to change or to alter their mood.
That's really good.
It is your responsibility to be available if they want to talk about it.
I love how you put that too, because you're not actually even digging. You're just making an observation. Hey, I wonder if you're hurting right now. Or, gee, it seems like you're feeling upset. There's a little nuance to that, but you're not even asking them to respond. You're just making an observation and then letting them respond when they're ready and available.
And if they do respond, I am upset. Oh, tell me more about that.
Exactly.
I'd love to understand.
Yeah, I like that. And I also want to add to this, making that approach and confirming this is probably best done by the bio parent. And if you're a step parent and you've already got a great relationship, you may have the opportunity to do that. But in many, many cases, this really is the job of a bio parent.
Now, you might even need to ask them if they're upset with you or if there's something that you've done to inadvertently hurt them.
Right.
Just listen. Don't defend yourself if they bring stuff up. Right. If it's, I didn't want you to marry that person, that's okay. Just let them talk. Sometimes you may just need to get some clarification out on the table and talk through these misunderstandings, or just let them vent their feelings. It's okay if they have a different perspective than you do. They are going to have different sensitivities than the adults. They have a different perspective. but don't be critical of their viewpoint, even if you don't agree with it.
Right.
Make it safe for them to express their feelings and tell you what they're experiencing without getting judgmental or trying to shut them down or tell them how they should feel. And then ask about other areas of their life, not just around the family dynamic, but tell me how things are going with your friends or at school, what's happening, or, tell me about your coach or that game that you guys played tonight. If you notice things that are going on.
I like those ideas as well. Thinking about the questions that start with, tell me about. If you can say, and not necessarily, your experience, but just tell me about your friends, right? How are they doing?
Yeah.
And if a child is really upset or being struggling with their relationship with one of their friends, usually just that question is going to pull that out of them because that's immediately what they're going to think about. So don't feel like you're having to say, well, is everything going okay with your friends? That's going to be received in a much different way than, hey, tell me about your friends. How are they doing?
Yeah.
And that just opens a door.
Yeah. It's less threatening. And, you may hear some things that are really hard to hear, especially if it has to do with your remarriage or with the family dynamic or the situation or a big change that they've had to go through, especially if it's linked to choices you've made.
Yeah.
And that can be tough. That can be really painful to hear your child express those kinds of things, especially for that bio parent. It can be painful for a step parent too, because sometimes a step parent will feel responsible for a lot of these things. So we want to support you there. We don't have time to go into all of it, but we do have a great blog article that's called, Is It Painful for You When Your Kids Express Negative Emotions?
Yeah.
And we're going to link that in the show notes because it can be really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Go check that out for sure if you're feeling that.
Yeah.
So step 1 is us getting on the same page. Step 2 is brainstorming what might be going on for the kids when there's disrespect happening. Step 3 is confirming that brainstorming, right? And actually checking in with the kids.
Doing some emotion coaching is what you're doing there.
That's right. And then step 4, we need to make sure that we're sorting out the difference between complaints and criticism.
Yes,
okay?
This is a major mindset shift.
That's right. This is a crucial difference between complaints and criticism. So complaints are aimed at behavior, and we want to stay focused on behavior. And it's okay in relationships to have a complaint.
Sure.
This is really challenging, or when we behave this way, it's not helping, right? We've got to be able to tell that difference. Now, criticism is attacking a person. It's attacking their character. There's a big difference. So listen to this. Here might be a complaint. Let's say we're dealing with really small kids.
With a whiny child.
Yeah, whining and complaining about lots of different things. Man, you're crying. This is dealing directly with the child. Your crying is really hurting my ears, and we were hoping to have a great morning together, right? So I'm complaining a little bit about their crying and their behavior. That's okay.
It's all about behavior.
Criticism sounds like this. Don't act like such a little brat. Why do you think you have to get your way all the time? There's other people in the house, See, there's a big difference there between a complaint and criticism. How about this one? This is another complaint. Maybe you're dealing with a little bit older child. When you speak disrespectfully like that, it's really hurtful, and it directly violates our family values around kindness. See how that's fairly neutral, but it's still a complaint?
Directed at the behavior.
Yeah, it's about the behavior. A criticism might be, why do you have to be so disrespectful all the time? When are you going to grow up and realize that the world doesn't revolve around you?
It's attacking their character.
Yeah, and how easy it is when our emotions are heightened to let those criticisms fly.
Yeah.
And as we share the complaints, we do have to pay attention to the body language, our tone of voice. Gentleness and empathy really are key. Listen to that other complaint again when you're not paying attention to tone of voice. When you speak disrespectfully like that, it's really hurtful, and it directly violates our family values around kindness. That's a huge difference, right? We could say the same exact words, but it can easily turn into a criticism when we're not careful about our tone and our body language and all that. So we've got to sort out the difference between those two things.
Yeah. And I just want to flip this a little bit. When a child comes to you with a complaint, really stay neutral there because they're not necessarily criticizing you as a parent or a step parent.
That's good.
They're just complaining about something that they don't like, and that's okay. It's okay for them to complain. Don't take it on as a personal attack.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And sometimes their complaints might sound critical.
Yeah.
So we do have to sort that out and be careful as well. So we're sorting out the difference between complaints and criticism. Now, just a little pro tip here. This strategy is really important when you're talking to your partner as well. Now, especially as a step parent, talking to your spouse about their kids. I had to learn this one the hard way. What I discovered is it was really hard for Kim to receive a complaint about Annika, right? Because what she really heard or perceived was a criticism about Kim's parenting.
Yeah, it felt like an attack.
Yeah, like I was saying, you're a bad parent. Yeah. And so we want to be really careful and consider this when we're sorting out the difference between this. It's okay to come with complaints, and we need to be very careful about the timing and the way that we do that. But if it's perceived as criticism, that just makes the whole thing a lot worse.
You could also consider using this language when you come to your partner. I have a complaint about the way your child's been treating me. Yeah. Can we talk about that? And I'm not criticizing you as a parent. I'm hoping we can work through this together.
Yeah.
The way you approach the bio parent is everything.
It's huge. Yeah,
it's important.
Huge. So we're sorting out the difference between complaints and criticism.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to step 5. And I just want to set this up. Step 5 has actually got a whole bunch of sub steps in it. We're going to give you what we call on the spot strategies. So you're in the moment, you're feeling that disrespect. There's a few different ways we feel that. And we're going to walk through what some of those are right now. 5 of them, actually. So you get 5 sub-steps in our 6 steps.
These will be in the free download because there are some scripts in here that you might want to try.
Yeah, we've got you covered. And so you can just go to get that download. Okay, so the first on-the-spot strategy, number 1, is dealing with that cold shoulder or that silent treatment that you might be getting from a child or a stepchild.
Yeah, when you're feeling invisible.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not fun.
So as a step parent, and we're going to talk a little bit as we go through these in terms of step parents and bio parents and different ways we can respond. As a step parent, one of the things that we want to do in this situation is to stay consistent, and I would add upbeat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want them to know that they're getting to me.
Yeah.
So when they walk by and they pretend like I'm not there, like let's say they just came home or from school, I don't necessarily want to ask a question because I don't want to try to force an engagement. I just want to greet them with something like, "Hey, Johnny, glad you're home." Or, "Hi, Sally, I hope you had a good day." Right? And I say it kindly and I'm upbeat and, "Hey, it's great to see you," kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't require them to respond.
Yeah, this is a kill 'em with kindness moment.
That's right.
You're going to remain upbeat and positive regardless of how they treat you.
That's right.
Which is hard to do.
Yep.
But it can pay off.
Now, the bio parents might respond a little differently. How would you respond?
Well, bio parents can remind the kids about the expectations. So this is once you've set some expectations with your kids, you want to remind them if they're giving that step parent the cold shoulder or the silent treatment, you might want to take them aside and say, "Listen, I notice that you're treating Mike really poorly and you're kind of ignoring him and you're not even responding to his hello. I wouldn't let you treat a teacher like that or a coach like that or any other respected adult like that. And so I'm going to insist that you acknowledge your step parent when they speak to you."
That's good.
But you're putting the step parent on the same level as a teacher or a coach or any other adult that you would require your child to treat with respect. You're not saying they're your step parent. You have to respect them now. I wouldn't allow you to do this in any other setting. I'm not allowing it now.
Yep.
So you can either reset that expectation, or if you've noticed a pattern, if you've had this talk many times, and we know that kids will slide back into old behaviors, if you've noticed a pattern and you feel like it's time to require an apology from the child, that might be your next step. And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we wouldn't recommend necessarily giving a consequence or taking a demanding approach here.
Right.
You need to keep in mind that you're trying to facilitate opportunities for relationships to grow between stepchild and step-parent.
Yep.
And so being overly demanding or handing out a bunch of consequences, it's going to counteract that.
That's right. So in this whole cold shoulder silent treatment thing is not necessarily time for a hard line consequence.
But you do want to let them know you're noticing.
Yep.
You're not going to get away with it because you're aware that this pattern is continuing. And so you're going to keep engaging in these talks and reminding them of the expectation.
That's good. So what's the second on-the-spot strategy?
Well, the second on-the-spot strategy for bio parents is that they need to hold their kids accountable for blatant sarcasm and disrespect and that type of behavior.
So now it's elevated past the silent treatment, cold shoulder. Now they're just being
They're back talking. Yeah. You've got to insist on the kids using respectful words and a respectful tone with your new spouse. Mm-hmm. That's a boundary you've got to set. And there's two elements of your response here. One is, honey, I love you too much and I care about you too much to let you go on being disrespectful. Mm-hmm. That's just not something that's going to serve you well as you grow up in life. You have to learn how to respect people. Mm-hmm. It's okay if you don't like your new step parent. Mm-hmm. You're probably going to have a boss someday or a professor in college that you don't like, but you still have to show respect. Mm-hmm. And so you let them know. And again, back to the coach or teacher. Yeah, that's the second element. Mm-hmm. I love you too much. Mm-hmm. And by the way. Yeah, by the way, if you had a teacher, a coach that you may not like or get along with all that much, you still have to learn to give them a certain level of respect. And I'm going to insist on that level of respect for your new step parent. That's right. So when you see blatant disrespect as a pattern, either toward the step parent or towards others, I mean, this is something you should be calling your kids on. You may need to escalate your approach by being more stern. And at this point, you may need to issue some consequences. That's right. So we're steering clear of consequences and hard lines when it's that whole cold shoulder thing. Yeah, or rolling of eyes, minor things. Well, I might argue with that. Rolling of eyes, really great. Yeah, it depends. And it depends on the child, too. Yeah. But when it comes to this blatant stuff, then we may need to get to consequences. Because, again, I mean, that the value of that coach or teacher thought process is, man, if they did something like that at school and they got called out on it, you'd probably do something about it. Yeah. So we should probably do something about it at home as well. Rude behavior is not okay. Yeah. That's the message you're giving to anyone. That's right. And then you're just slipping the step parent in under that umbrella. Yeah. All right, let's move on to our on-the-spot strategy number 3. And this one is centered more for step parents, okay? So now we're dealing with blatant disrespect and we're a step parent and we're just confronted by this. And what do we do? Well, one way we can approach that is through what Love and Logic calls the broken record routine. So here's how it goes. Your stepchild has just said or done something really disrespectful. Tempers are starting to flare, right? We know that our heart rate is going up a little bit too. But our first objective is to create some space so that we can both reach some sort of calmness and have a little bit more rational discussion. Yeah. Remember at the beginning of the episode, we said that we want to put all of this through that frame of protecting relationships, safeguarding relationships. Yeah. And when emotions are spiking high, that's not a good time to engage. That can lead to a lot of problems with power struggles. That's right. So I love this broken record routine. It seems really simple and almost kind of silly, but it really can work. So let's just say that your stepchild has said, I don't have to listen to you. Shut up. Which, maybe that's pretty blatant, but this does happen. And I'm sure some of you listening are going, yeah, I just heard that last night, right? So I don't have to listen to you. Shut up. Well, you might respond with something like, Johnny, no one can make you listen. And I think right now we're having a hard time listening to each other. So let's take a bit of a break. Why don't you go in your room or out back for a little while?
You're going to, you're going to be serious, but you're also going to be calm. You don't have to be overly stern. Here's where the broken record comes in, because they're probably going to respond with something like, well, I don't have to go anywhere else. This is my house too. I live here. Besides, you never listen to me anyway. Now you're the broken record. Johnny, I'll be glad to listen to you when you've calmed down, but I think you'd be a lot happier if we just took a break for now, right? We're just sticking to hey, we're going to take a break for now. Now they might keep it up. They might say, well, you never listen to a word I say. Again, we're the broken record. I think you'd be a lot happier if we took a break. They might say, this isn't fair. Well, keep being the broken record. Sorry you see it that way, Johnny, but I think you'd be a lot happier if we just took a break for a bit.
Yeah, just keep repeating.
And just keep going after it. Eventually, they'll often give up. And what you're doing here is you're avoiding a big power struggle. Because if we keep that conversation going and we get into an argument when our emotions are high, we're likely going to end up in a power struggle.
You're locked in.
And you're not really demanding anything, right? The goal is just simply to create some space until you can circle back around. Or you might even need to create enough space to allow the bio parent to step into the conversation when they're available, because maybe they're gone or
at least
or
consult
like
with the bio parent, maybe.
Exactly. So it's all about buying time in this
and calming down,
calming everybody down. And by the way, this strategy can be used by bio parents too. This isn't just about step parents. You might be able to just keep being that broken record and keep repeating yourself until they finally respond. Most of the time, if they don't respond in, the first or second attempt, that a lot of times for us as parents just makes us mad, and then we start getting into demanding mode. But if we can just keep it up 3, 4, 5 times, a lot of times the kids will finally just give in and go do what you asked them to do. So try out that broken record routine. It's actually pretty good. And it does come from Love and Logic, which we're big fans of. If you don't know about Love and Logic, just Google them. Actually, you know what?
We can put
I'll put a link in the show notes for the Love and Logic book, and you can check that out.
They have great strategies on things like this.
Now, related to this can be, I was going to say this could be for younger kids, but it really can be for any age. There's one big dreaded statement for every step parents, for most step parents.
Number 4 strategy.
Number 4 on the spot strategy. And that's when you hear those dreaded words, you're not my mommy, you're not my daddy.
Yep.
Right? That's a time where we definitely need to take a big, deep breath, because that can be very, very hurtful.
Yes.
And keep in mind our tone, our body language, and all of that. And we might think about responding with something like this. Again, I'm going to put the script for this right in the download. So you've just heard, you're not my daddy. I'm going to take it from that perspective because I'm the stepdad. I might respond with, I know, I'm not your dad, and I'm not trying to be. I do want to be someone in your life that you can count on. I want to help you be successful. And I know all this is hard for you, and I just want to remind you about your mom's expectations about X, about whatever it is that you might be about to enter into the argument about. It might be homework, chores, whatever. That's usually when the you're not my mommy, you're not my daddy words come out.
It's when
you're requesting them to do something, or you're giving them a instruction. That's when it's coming out. So I'm just reminding you about your mom's expectations about whatever it is. And you know what? I'm here to help you if you need it. Just let me know.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to repeat that again, but I will put that in the free download. But it's a good way to kind of diffuse that, and it helps you to remember what you are and aren't trying to do.
Yeah. And again, you're not entering into a big power struggle.
Right.
You're actually doing the opposite. You're saying, I'm on your side. I'm for you. I'm here to help you. And I'm just reminding you of the expectations that have been set.
Yeah. I totally get that this is not easy stuff. Like when you're feeling hurt, or really what the feeling often is rejection from a stepchild. It's hard to stay stable, to keep our cool and stay there in the moment. And so you might need to even practice. Like you could take this script if you want and literally memorize it.
Practice it in front of the mirror and watch your body language.
Or practice it with your partner, with your spouse, and just keep focused on your voice being calm, your body language being careful, welcoming and all that. And,
when a child responds like that, you don't want to respond back in a childlike way.
That's right. Yeah.
You want to be the mature adult. You want to handle it and keep your composure.
That's right.
And respond with something that's going to continue to build relationship with the child, not break it down.
That's right. So we've talked about on-the-spot strategies when we have the cold shoulder. We've talked about how a bio parent can hold kids accountable for blatant sarcasm. We talked about the broken record for the step parent who is just trying to diffuse the situation. And we just covered how we might respond when we hear, "You are not my mommy, you are not my daddy." Mm-hmm. So, hun, what is the fifth on-the-spot strategy that we want to talk about?
Well, the fifth one has to do with requiring an apology.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is necessary. And some children, that is what they will need. Now, something that can be really helpful is giving kids a choice, because you want them to still feel empowered, even though they're doing something they may not want to do. That's key. And choices can give that to kids.
So that's a general principle that we can think about when we're requiring them to make this apology, right?
Yeah.
And we're also, I know what you're about to share. And so I want to also point out that whole "I love you too much" approach is one that is going to be worked right in here. So I'm excited for you to share this one.
Yeah. So the bio parent, when it comes time, when you've decided, an apology needs to be made. I've already set the expectations. I've reminded them. I see this pattern. It's not changing. And now, as the bio parent, you've decided that the next step will be an apology.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. So you sit down with your child, and here's how you explain this to them. And you're giving them choices. Remember, you want to empower them, even though they're going to be doing something they may not want to do. So you're going to say, honey, there's going to be a lot of people in your life who you maybe don't like or don't agree with, and that's okay. But I love you too much to let you miss out on how to work with them. And sometimes that includes apologizing when you've acted in a disrespectful way. So by the time you go to bed tomorrow night, I want you to apologize. And you can either do that in a discussion, in a conversation. You can send a text message, or you can even do a handwritten note. It's your choice how you choose to apologize.
Wow, that's really great. So the principle of getting the choice and that approach of, I love you too much to let you miss out on learning this lesson are baked right into that. And again, we're going to put that whole script right into the download.
Yeah, and you're focusing on their behavior, not on their character. It wasn't okay to say those things or to act that way. And I want to teach you how to behave.
Yeah, that's great. So we have 5 on-the-spot strategies there, okay? But I just want to do a quick little recap. We don't want to get too confused. We've got 6 steps for responding to disrespect. And within that, on our 5th step, we actually have 5 different strategies, sub-steps within that. But our 6 steps are, number 1, getting clear as a couple on what our expectations around respect is.
Absolutely
crucial.
Number
2, we're going to brainstorm the root cause of the attitude or the disrespect. Number 3, we're going to confirm that root cause by actually engaging in a conversation with the kids.
Get curious.
Number 4, we're going to sort out the difference between complaints and criticisms. We want to avoid criticisms. And number 5 was our 5 on-the-spot strategies, which takes us to step number 6. And this one's important for both bio parents and step parents. But as a step parent, I really can empathize with this. We need to focus on self-care.
Yeah.
Okay. We really need the energy to keep showing up and responding well. And it does burn a lot of energy to keep ourselves under control in those moments.
This is hard.
And so we've got to have some self-care. And one of the ways we can do that is just simply giving reasonable space for us as well as our stepkids and kids. Like everybody needs a way to recharge, Part of how I get some reasonable space is I connect with people outside the home because that's how I recharge with my friends and with other people that I like to hang out with. Kim's the opposite. She gets reasonable space by going in her craft room and hanging out by herself for a while because she's an introvert. And our kids are either extroverts or introverts as well. And so we need to recognize that and make sure that everybody has the reasonable space they need.
Yeah.
Now, another thing around self-care is figuring out how we're going to get our story straight and keep our expectations in order.
Yeah.
We cannot, as a step parent, expect a love and acceptance. That we talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We can expect courtesy and kindness and civility. And so let's just get our story straight around what's really happening. And if we did steps 2 and 3 really well, we can also steer clear of labeling our kids.
Yeah.
Right? It's really easy. I remember early on, it was tough for me to fight that thought of what a little brat. Like, I can't believe she's speaking that way. It was mostly brat for me.
Yeah.
But the problem is, when I think about my stepchild as a brat, I'm really thinking about her character, who she is as a person, not saying, that was poor behavior. Mm-hmm. There's a huge difference between you're acting like a little brat versus, that's poor behavior and we're going to have to do something.
You're actually sabotaging your relationship with your stepchild if you're believing that they're a brat.
That's true. That's true.
Another common one.
Because it keeps you stuck.
Yeah. Another common one is, they're so manipulative.
Right.
And they may be
displaying
manipulative behavior, and there could be a really good reason why.
Yeah, so we got to get to the bottom of it. That's what step 2 and 3 are all about. All right, honey, what other kinds of things do we need to do around self-care?
Well, we don't want to allow our kids' poor attitudes and behavior to dictate how we respond and how we live our life, right? They can drag us down. We need to choose to be kind and gentle and to stay calm regardless of how they treat us. And I realize this is much easier said than done.
Yeah, but you know what? In other settings, most of us do that even when we have people acting poorly around us.
We can, in a lot of settings.
In society, we do that differently.
It's hard when it's in your own home, though.
That's
it really is. It is tough. But one thing that parents and step-parents need to do as part of their self-care regimen is to learn to respect themselves. Mm-hmm. And part of how we do that is by holding our own personal boundaries.
Yep.
And we do that in a calm and a centered way. Mm-hmm. There's a great quote in one of the Love and Logic books that says this: you never get respect by demanding or pleading for it. You get respect when you start treating yourself with respect.
Mm-hmm. And that's what those 5 on-the-spot strategies are really all about. How we can set those good personal boundaries, whether we're a bio parent or a step parent, without allowing the kids to get us off track just because they're in a bad mood.
Yeah. So you don't want to allow your kids to take advantage of you, to treat you badly, that was a problem that we were up against in the beginning because my daughter Annika really, I didn't have those boundaries in place, and she kind of treated me like a doormat, and I didn't have the respect for myself until I started stepping up and being the parent I needed to be.
Yeah, that's good.
In a loving way. Another point, and this one's so important too, and easier said than done, but you've got to let go of what you can't control. Your stepkids accepting you and loving you, that's not something you have complete control over.
True.
It's got to happen naturally and gradually over time. And so what you got to stay focused on is the long game and not get really caught up in these momentary rejections. Yes, they hurt. Yes, it's not fun to be treated poorly or to be rejected, but look at the long game, the big picture.
Right.
We hear time and time again, as time went on, years later, the stepchild finally came around and started really connecting with me and including me. And now we have this great relationship.
Yep.
But
they didn't give up.
They didn't give up, and they had to endure some tough stuff.
That's right.
So we want to look at the big picture and not try to control these things that are out of our control. It's hard. And if you want to supercharge the process of creating some more connection,
or at least opportunities to connect,
between you and your stepchild, go back and listen to episode 9, because that has that surprisingly simple strategy for bonding with stepkids.
Yeah, that's really good.
And that can help to elevate the status of the step parent and really help kids to internalize for themselves that the step parent is for them and wants good things for them. So go back and listen to 9.
Yeah. Wow, we threw a lot at you just in a short period of time. We know that we really packed a lot into this episode, and that's exactly why we created that cheat sheet that we told you about that you can download for free. Just remember, you can get that at support.mikeandkimcoaching.com/017 for episode 17. So go grab that. We've got those scripts in there. We've got all 6 steps. We've got all 5 of the on-the-spot strategies.
Subsets.
And you can check all that out. Okay. And don't forget, hit subscribe. Leave us an honest review. We would love to hear how this podcast is impacting you. And we would love for you to help us make the podcast more visible for other couples who need this kind of support as well. So next week, we're going to talk about navigating big transitions, right? We're all dealing with lots of change. And you know what? Kids have a lot of things to navigate. Change is hard.
Yeah.
So we're going to share some tips next week about all of that.
Yeah,
In the meantime, episode 17 is wrapped.
Until next time.